has no end, I tell you. Let's talk to Kevin Sullivan, who's here. Kevin, very good morning to you.
Your reach ends at England.
Well, listen, I've never seen a campaign that I started that long ago working, so I'm going to take credit.
England will get on board in about 14 years' time.
Where credit is due. I mean, I think the thing that most people hate about hospital parking charges is that you go to a hospital and you don't know how long you're going to be there usually, particularly if you're going with one of your children or you're taking somebody to hospital who's sick, or, you know, you're going to visit somebody. You don't always know how long you're going to be there. And a lot of the hospitals that I've been to, you have to buy a pay and display ticket. And therefore you have to put a time limit on it. You can't not put a time limit on it. And if you stay over, you can get a fine.
Yeah, I mean, charging the sick, the needy, people visiting the sick and the needy is a sick policy.
It really is.
Here's once in a lifetime to Scotland for doing the right thing. It's time we followed suit in England.
Yes, I think so, because the money doesn't go to the hospital anyway, because they normally, hive it out to some ghastly private operator who just rakes a load of profit in and goes and buys a yacht in the Caribbean.
Exactly.
Now, just before we get on to the subject of the BBC, which is one of our pet subjects, let me ask you a question. I was just talking to one of our callers who's at the Extinction Rebellion march, right? Or sit down, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that the police are all just standing about, not really doing anything. Now, the other week we were told that so far the policing of these Extinction Rebellion protests is about 56 million quid. My question is, if the police aren't doing anything, what's the point in them being there and therefore charging us all this money?
Yeah, we're only a step away from them climbing on the skateboards and dancing with the EXO lot again. The police response to these demonstrators has always been pathetic. And it's down to the sort of Stephen Fry syndrome, who came out the other day and said, oh, well, you have to support Extinction Rebellion's criminal tactics because it's such a good cause. So, in other words, the middle classes, the police, are very diffident about Extinction Rebellion because it's climate change. But here's what I'd like to say is, they say, oh, it's the climate change emergency. You want to see a real emergency? Go over to Kabul right now.
Right.
That's an emergency. And I think the timing of these pathetic white middle-class idiots from Tunbridge Wells who come up to London for the day and pretend to be hippie protesters, the timing is absolutely appalling when we're seeing a real emergency and real tragedy unfolding on our TV screens in Afghanistan. So they can go and do one, and the police should arrest every single one of them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. It's really absolutely ridiculous, and the timing, as you say, is awful. Particularly opposite as well, when that woman came on with Christo yesterday, one of the leaders of Extinction Rebellion, to confess that she drove a diesel car because she couldn't afford an electric one. Oh, that's all right then.
Yeah, what is it with these eco warriors? You got Alok Sharma, Allegra Stratton, now this woman. Right. They all drive diesel cars.
Stephen Fry.
They hate the environment.
Stephen Fry's got a Bentley.
Yeah, I mean, even I don't drive a diesel car, and I don't hate the environment, but it's clear that the Extinction Rebellion mob, secretly, in their private lives, can't do enough to ruin the environment.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
Fraud. They're absolute hypocrites, and people in Britain hate hypocrisy.
They really do. They absolutely do. Well, let's hope they try and stop one of the tubes again sometime soon. We'll see whether we get a repeat of the Canning Town Revolution. Let's talk a little bit about the BBC before we talk about your show tonight. More kind of angst going on over at Broadcasting Headquarters, Broadcasting House, because they're trying to hire somebody who's trying to pretend she's not left-wing.
Yeah, her name's Jess Braemar, and she's about to become the executive head of the BBC's news channels, a very important job in terms of the news output of the state broadcaster. It transpires that she's got a long record. She used to work on the Huffington Post. She's got a long record of tweeting about how awful Boris is, smash the Tories. She's a big Remainer, Brexiteers are morons, all that kind of stuff, to the extent that when she came into line for this top power job at the BBC, guess what? Miraculously, 16,000 of her tweets disappeared. They were eradicated because she doesn't want people to know about her true left-wing.
Does she not know that even if you delete tweets that somebody might actually have them somewhere?
Well, yes, everybody's seen them, so that didn't work. Now, the thing about her getting this job is Robbie Gibb, who used to be Theresa May's head of communications at Downing Street,
Yeah.
has warned the BBC that if you give this woman the job, you will shatter all trust that the government has in the BBC. Because this is a woman who is patently anti-Tory, anti-Boris, anti-Brexit. And the BBC is like a recalcitrant school kid, naughty school kid, who if you tell it to do something, they'll do the opposite.
Right.
So now it's being put in its position about what to do about Jess Braemar. It's doubled down and will almost certainly give her the job, shattering the relationship between the BBC and the government and further digging their own grave.
Well,
I mean,
quite.
it's a ridiculous organisation. How can we trust the impartiality of BBC news coverage that they're so proud of when they're giving this job, this important head of news job, to an avowed left-wing Remainer, anti-Boris, anti-Tory fanatic?
I'm told her husband works for The Guardian as well. I think that's right.
There's a thing. You will knock me down with a feather.
Also, I was rather amused at the weekend to see that other bastion of unbiased news coverage, Lewis Goodall, who now works for Newsnight, had to remove one of his tweets because he was outraged by this criticism of Jess Braemar. But even the BBC thought he'd gone too far, so they told him to take his own tweet down because it was being dealt with by the management.
Well, quite. Newsnight is like it's like the sort of communist party in the middle of the BBC.
Yeah.
I mean, even by BBC standards, Newsnight's ludicrously left-wing. The whole organisation is left-wing. And this new Director General, Tim Davie, newish now, he's been around for a while, over a year. If I hear anyone say, oh, he's encouraging, he's taking the BBC in a much more moderate direction, I'm going to shoot them. This is absolute nonsense. This organisation gets worse by the day under the auspices of Tim Davie, who is doing nothing to stop the left-wing bias of the BBC. Not a damn thing. He's also spending £100 million on diversity. Here's an idea, Tim. Spend £100 million on some decent programmes before the BBC goes completely down under.
Yes. Here's a very good point. I've got a tweet here from Mick. Pink Table, which is, of course, Extinction Rebellion's thing in St Martin's Lane, still there. Shelter for protesting Gurkhas removed by the police. I mean, it says it all, really, doesn't it?
It's just absurd.
Yeah. Obscene.
The police should just arrest them all.
Yeah.
They don't like it when they get criminal records because they're middle class.
Yeah, and they can't go anywhere.
Stubborn. But you know what the High Court's been doing? They've been appealing against their convictions.
Well, they let them all off as soon as they go through the
And
system.
the High Court is repealing their convictions, saying they are free and they're pardoned. Because, of course, they broke the law, but they broke the law because of the climate change emergency.
Yeah, so
it's
that's
not
all
an
right
emergency.
That's all right then. I know you've been talking to Kabul on a regular basis this week and last week. What's coming up tonight, Kevin?
Well, we're hoping to get Pen Farthing again from the Animal Sanctuary, the Nowzad Animal Sanctuary, because, you know, he's been badly let down by Ben Wallace and indeed Boris Johnson, who had promised him all they want. They've got an aeroplane, it's chartered, it's ready to come into Kabul airport, pick up Pen Farthing, about 200 civilians, including 65 of his frightened staff, Afghani staff, who will be punished by the Taliban if they don't get out of there, and their families, plus 170 sick and needy animals who will go into the cargo hold. They're not taking any human positions. This is not costing the taxpayers a penny. All Pen Farthing wants is a thing called an ISAP number, which will allow the plane to land at Kabul, load up, and then take off.
Right.
That's all he's asking. And Ben Wallace he's found himself a nice catchy phrase. He said it this morning to Julia on Talk Radio. I will not prioritise pets over people. A, they're not pets. Right. And B, they're not taking any human seats. As Ricky Gervais tweeted this morning, I won't use the exact language he employed.
No, I saw that.
But if you see some of these planes taking off with all the refugees and everything being transported out, they're full of cars. They're full of cars. Well, you know, if you can get cars onto planes, you can get animals onto planes. This is a mercy mission to get frightened people and needy animals out of Kabul. And if we cannot, as a nation, find it in our hearts to back that project, then I don't know what's become of us. And the truth is, Ben Wallace and his acolytes do not understand the amount of support that Pen Farthing has. Pen Farthing, by the way, is a Royal Marine who served 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. He has served his country.
Yeah.
It's time for his country to serve him.
I couldn't agree more. Well said indeed. Kevin O'Sullivan here with us tonight at 7 o'clock, of course, right here on Talk Radio. Coming up, we're going to be taking your calls. We're also going to be talking about schools, because why would schools be delayed in opening in September? We'll find out next on Talk Radio.